people think they can live in a culture where Christina Aguilera can prance around on stage in a Hulk outfit with a giant green dildo attached to her suit at a family-friendly pride event and not expect that there's going to be some sexual depravity. A 10-year-old's right to an abortion has been taken from her, and the left is going bananas about it. I'm Cliff from Not Gospel Studios. Let's react to some news. So America has turned into a barnyard bucket full of crazy in the past couple of weeks, and it's all been about Roe v. Wade being overturned. Folks on the radical side of the left are acting like this is the end of civilization as we know it, and the folks on the radical right are kind of acting like this is the return of Jesus himself. It's actually neither one of those things. It's simply just the return to states controlling what abortion laws are allowed in their states. That's all it is. Some of the places that have had the fiercest protests and demonstrations about this, like Los Angeles and places in New York, are places that the overturning of Roe v. Wade really didn't affect them at all. There were no trigger laws in their cities that were enacted. They simply just felt the need to express their desire to wreak some havoc and support women's reproductive rights by making a big stink. One of the stories that got a lot of traction this past week is about a 10-year-old girl out of Ohio who, once Ohio's trigger laws went into effect, she was no longer allowed to get an abortion. Ohio had a trigger law that banned abortions after 6 weeks, and this young girl who was pregnant was actually 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant. And since Ohio, her home state, banned abortions at 6 weeks, she no longer qualified. So the stories that the pro-choice advocates are focusing on is how the harrowing story of how this young girl had to travel all the way to Indianapolis, transfer to Indianapolis to get her reproductive care. And the doctors when they interviewed the doctors from Indianapolis, they have said over and over about how their phones are just off the hook with teary-eyed, crying pregnant women who cannot get their health care. They cannot get abortions. Women from Kentucky and women from Ohio and surrounding states who had trigger laws that went into effect. Apparently, the clinic in Indianapolis is going to be overrun with women who are desperate to get their abortions, to get their reproductive care. What is the most interesting, I guess is the best word, about this story is that the pro-choice advocates are using this story to talk about how evil it was to overturn Roe v. Wade, and that states having power over abortion laws is totally wrong because this 10-year-old can't get an abortion. What's dumbfounding to me is that no one in the pro-choice movement is focusing on or even mentioning how it's awful and terrifying that a 10-year-old is pregnant to begin with. What kind of culture are we creating where we're more concerned with a 10-year-old's right and ability to get an affordable abortion in her state than we are the culture we're creating that is enabling a 10-year-old to be abused and become pregnant in the first place? I even had somebody argue the point to me very recently that young girls who can't get an abortion, all this does is increase the likelihood that predators are going to seek them out because now the girls are forced to have these predators' babies. That's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. In what world does allowing a young girl free and easy access to an abortion, in what world does that suppress a predator? It doesn't. That, in my opinion, enables a predator. It's like, oh, they get to have consequence-free abuse of this child? Sign them up, I guess. That is the most absurd argument I've ever heard. The saddest part about it is that people think they can live in a culture where Christina Aguilera can prance around on stage in a Hulk outfit with a giant green dildo attached to her suit at a family-friendly pride event and not expect that there's going to be some sexual depravity. Not expect that the over-sexualization of everything we see, not expect that the sexual grooming that they're trying to do to third graders and preschoolers, talking about what gender they are and what sexual preferences they are and this kind of thing in our schools, not to expect those kids to wind up living in a culture that is sexually depraved. The frustrating thing to me is that the pro-choice advocates are more concerned with this girl's right to get an abortion than they are, hey, There's something screwed up in our culture. We're creating something in our culture that allowed a system where all of a sudden this 10-year-old girl is pregnant. There should be no pregnant 10-year-olds. That's it. A culture in a society is kind of like your body. When you have a headache, your body is telling you that something is wrong. Your body's not telling you that you need Tylenol or aspirin to fix your headache. Abortions are like Tylenol or aspirin. When you have a 10-year-old who's pregnant, that's your society screaming out to you, hey, something is wrong. We need to fix something. We've got a 10-year-old who's pregnant. Letting that 10-year-old get an abortion is just silencing your culture's way of telling you that something is wrong. That's treating the symptoms. That's not treating the problem. That's not doing a service for your community. That's punishing an unborn child for the acts of an evil, abusive rapist. I had people engage with me on this story and challenge me, pro-choice advocates, and say, so you think this 10-year-old child should be forced to have this rapist baby? Yes or no? I responded with no. I think no child should be forced to bear the consequences of this rapist's actions, these horrendous, heinous actions. I told them that a rapist should bear the full consequence of his actions. But when I say no child should bear the consequences of a rapist, that includes the unborn child in this 10-year-old. This is a gross, sticky, awful situation. It absolutely is. And abortion, free and easy and safe abortions, are not an answer. That is a sad attempt at a fix at a problem from a culture that is just depraved. That's in my opinion. There is a disease of over-sexualization of our youth, and these instances, these situations with these young people, 16, 14, 13, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, being pregnant, the fix to that is not abortion. The fix to that is not punishing and destroying, crushing and sucking out an unborn child out of this other child. That's not the fix. That's punishing the unborn, an innocent unborn child, mind you, for the acts of the rapist. And it's dumbfounding to me that people on the left are just focusing on her reproductive rights are in jeopardy. Her life's in jeopardy. This is a dreadful situation. This is a dreadful culture that we've created that is enabling this kind of situation. On top of that, if this 10-year-old girl gets an abortion, there is a great possibility that it will hinder her ability to get pregnant when she wants to have a child. Several OBGYNs have testified that the most common occurrence of septic uteri that they've discovered were from post-abortion women who had had abortion before and now were trying to get pregnant, and they had septic uteruses. This means that going through the traumatic and oftentimes violent experience of an abortion will possibly hinder a woman's ability to get pregnant when she wants to. Before this gets turned into some, he's a forced birth extremist or whatever, which is not true. I don't want to see 10-year-old pregnant girls. I don't. That's disgusting. And the people who abuse young girls like that need to be punished to the full extent of the law. But the solution to this problem is not sacrificing somebody else for the sins of an evil rapist. That's just wrong. But anyways, y'all, let me know what you think of this story. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. We're going to try to bring you the in-the-minute news. Do engage in the comments and keep supporting quality, independent content. And as always, keep being awesome, because that's how God made you.